Today's topic going to be an interesting one. Obviously, we are all about business finance, business funding, this marketplace of options out there. And interestingly enough, you've got over the last year where stocks have kind of been down, crypto's kind of been down, different parts of the country, real estate prices and high rates have had an effect there. What are the options that are available out there for all you small business owners? And if you're in the business funding space, which a lot of you are that follow this channel, we're going to talk about how you can cash in on this red hot space. We look at the last year, there's been different things going on in the economy. There's been, just in the last few weeks, you've had these banks. We talked about Silicon Valley Bank and what went on there, and it's kind of spread to some other banks. And whenever you raise interest rates that quickly, that fast, that high from, 0.5% up to 5% in a very short period of time, there's going to be some unforeseen consequences. And if you're Jerome Powell, the dude at the Fed who's making the ultimate decision on when to raise those interest rates, you can't always see what the effects are going to be. And so the effects have been, it's negatively impacted a lot of banks. It's put a lot of debt where you could buy these mortgage-backed securities, and not dangerous ones. I mean, these are all very conservative. The people are still, for the most part, very current with their mortgage payments. And that being the case, there's still been these debt pieces now are worth a lot less if you need to sell them before they're ready for maturity. And so that's put a lot of Wall Street, a lot of banks in a bind. And obviously stocks as a whole have kind of, gone up and down. Overall, they've been negative for the last year. And then certain economies, the real estate markets, the real estate prices have gone down. And so, but there's always a bull market somewhere. And so, where are you seeing bull markets right now where there's opportunity for, if you're a business owner, where you can cash in and capitalize, or if you're part of the business finance space?
Yeah, I mean, case in point, one of our partners came in today and explained
what an awesome guy he is,
how well he's doing with Turo, amongst a handful of other things. But he's decided, you know what? Yes, things are tight for a lot of people, but there's always going to be people that have a lot of money. And when people with a lot of money travel, they want high-end vehicles. They want the same G-Wagon that they drive in LA to be able to pick up at the airport in Salt Lake City and head up to Park City. So he kind of went in and understood, you know what, I'm going to go out and bite the bullet and rent these or purchase these very, very high-end vehicles that my auto loan payment may be $2,500 to $3,000 a month. But he said a lot of these vehicles, he's doing $15,000 to $20,000 every single month because the high-end market hasn't really tanked at all. I mean, I think a lot of the middle class have really slowed down their travel because they're getting hit pretty hard with inflation and whatnot, but the wealthy are still wealthy and they're still traveling and they still want those high-end vehicles.
It's interesting. It reminds me of a video I saw with Alex Hormoz, and he was talking about it. Listen, if you change, your dream client that you want to work for, and your dream client now is, in a different segment, has a lot more money, a lot more disposable income, and you focus all of your attention to serving that type of client, well, they're going to be less impacted by the price of real estate, the stock market. Sure, it'll hurt their net worth a little bit, but when your net worth goes from, 200 million to 180 million, or, 10 million to 9 million, 8 million, it doesn't really change their lifestyle. They're not going to really make any adjustments. They're going to continue to spend the way they do. And so if you do serve that luxury market, it can be very recession proof. And if you're not familiar with Turo, it's Turo.com. It's basically the Airbnb of cars. And so when you travel, I mean, I just think back to a couple of years ago when we went to Orlando, and we literally had rented a van for the entire week, and we went to pick it up, and actually they were out of the vans, even though we prepaid for it and reserved it, 2 months in advance. And legitimately, we went around Orlando and we called, and there was nothing. Because it was, right after the pandemic, it kind of slowed down, and Florida was the only place that was open. Everybody was going to Orlando. We couldn't get a car rental. And if you've ever sat in line, there is nothing worse than sitting in line to rent your damn car and filling out all their garbage forms and literally waiting So we literally we waited in line actually 3 hours. We're not able to get our car. And so we actually just had to do Uber the entire time in Orlando. But then you taught me about Turo. And I think you should share how magical this is, especially when you fly into an airport. And so I've done this now in Portland, Vegas, Orlando, all these different areas, and it's a life changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's an example. Last time I flew into LAX, which LAX is already a nightmare as is, having the thought of having to go sit in line for 25 minutes to try and get upsold all these insurances and this and that, not to mention to get on the shuttle, to go to the rental car. It's miserable. It's a miserable experience. I hate the time of getting off the plane to getting to your hotel is one of the worst parts of travel for me. And so I finally had a friend tell me about Turo. So I jump on Turo, and there's tons of cars. These are individuals like you and me that say, you know what, I've got an extra vehicle, or there's now people doing it as a business. I'm going to go buy these vehicles and put them on Turo so that people traveling can rent them out. But last time I went to LAX, the gentleman calls me up because I told him when I was landing. So he called me, said, hey, I'm right here at passenger pickup. Let's just do the swap. So I get my bag. I walk out to the curb. I jump in his Porsche. He walks over to the bus stop. It takes him to his other vehicle. I drive off, and it was just as quick as if my wife picked me up at the airport. But now I'm in the vehicle driving off, and same thing. When it was time to go home, he got dropped off at passenger pickup. So I was able to drive right to passenger pickup, get out of the car, jump right to my gate.
Give him a high five. Thanks, man.
Done. Yeah. I mean,
so good.
It's brilliant, right? You get way better vehicles. It's a lot less expensive. It's the way to do it.
Exactly. And just like on Airbnb, you're both rating each other. Were you a good, caretaker of the vehicle? Were they a good host? And everybody does a good job, and they're held accountable, and you avoid all that nightmare. So the bottom line is there's always a bull market somewhere. Turo can be an opportunity. Airbnb properties can be an opportunity. Obviously, when you're looking to serve a segment, what happens when things are good? What happens when things are bad? If you're in the business finance space and you're serving business owners, well, in good times, those business owners need money to take advantage of opportunities to grow and expand. And in bad times, down times, maybe like what we're going into now, they need money even more to be able to survive, to be able to stay in business, regardless of the profession, the industry they're in. As a small business owner, they're going to need access to financing. And so if you're already, working with business owners, then you should be helping them to, access capital so that they can invest in whatever B2B service or product you offer them. And if you're already a part of the business finance space, well, it's just a matter of building that niche up and connecting with business owners. Unlike, pretty much when it comes to marketing, most people just market in general, and you have to be very specific in who you want to serve. And so, for example, when we got started in business finance, we said, hey, we're going to focus on serving startups. And so when you're focused on startup funding, one of the things about it is there's like 500,000 new businesses started every month in this country. And what percent of them do you think are actually being served real financing options to get off the ground?
Very, very few. I mean, they just don't know that they're out there.
They don't. And that's kind of how we started. I mean, I was helping kind of the bigger businesses and commercial real estate. And I'm like, wow, there's hundreds of thousands of new businesses popping up all over the country. And they go down to their local bank, and the local bank says, no, we can't help you. And I remember sitting down with a regional Chase executive who was in charge of 5 different branches in the Salt Lake area. And she said in each branch, about 20 business owners would come in looking for financing for a small business or a new business, and she would immediately have to say no to 17 of the 20. So maybe 3, but really at the end of the day, after they dug deeper, maybe 1 or 2. So we're looking at less than 10% of these new businesses are getting financing from the bank, and less than 1% are getting, venture capital, or they're getting crowdfunding. And so legitimately 85-90% of new businesses don't have very many options out there. And that's why startup funding as a niche is always going to, at least for the foreseeable future, need a lot of people to be able to serve those small business owners who are starting new businesses. And so that's what we focused on. And the startup funding niche, regardless of what's going on in the economy, if times are good, people look to start business. If times are bad, more people are going to lose jobs. And if you lose a job, then you start thinking, maybe my job wasn't so secure. Maybe I should start my own business. And you're going to need some capital to make that happen.
Yeah, and case in point, I mean, one of the big things that we're always talking about is it's way better to have the money and not need it than vice versa, right? And case in point, you look at this right now, what if you would have gotten a HELOC, even if you didn't need the money, you said, you know what, let's make sure it's there, let's make sure it's available. Look at if you got a HELOC 3 years ago, what rate you would be locked into versus if you tried to go out and get a HELOC today, right? Same thing with business loans, with lines of credit. Yes, tons of people still need the money. Tons of people are still taking the money, but inevitably, based on the economy, the rates and the costs have gone up. Whereas if you could have gotten that money locked in a year, even a year and a half ago, you'd be in a much better place today. So as a business owner, I think it's important to expect to grow, to expect that you're going to need capital, and the time to get capital is well before you need the money, Leo.
100%. Yeah. By the time you actually need it, you may not actually qualify because times got tough. Your finances don't look as good. And so I'd say there's kind of three type of financing products as a business owner you must and should have no matter what's going on. The first being, if you can get a business line of credit, then you absolutely should have that business line of credit available, ready to tap into. The second is business credit cards. You should always be looking, strategically to connect with new business credit cards every single year. And that's kind of what we specialize in, right? Let's get you access to business credit cards with a 0% interest rate with cashback bonuses. There's so many benefits, but you're not paying on it until you actually need it. And if you pay it off every 30 to 45 days, you never pay any interest. And most of these will have a 0% period from 9 to as high as 18 months for a business credit card. So you're not even paying any interest. And so you can kind of strategically go through different rounds of funding, pay 0% interest, and get a new round of funding every 15 to 18 months in your business. And then when you get real smart, hopefully you're generating cashback rewards that can be, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in free money that you just get in cashback rewards for using your business card when you travel, to buy anything. And then if you get real smart, you use personal cards to pay as many personal expenses as possible. And all of this leads to all this free money flowing into you. So we talked about the business line of credit. We talked about the business credit card, and you just talked about number 3. Like, you should have a home equity line of credit available, already approved, that you can tap into if you need it. If there's a great opportunity, great. We're going to use it for the great opportunity. If there's an emergency, if times get really tough, then I'm going to be able to tap that very affordable home equity line of credit, and I'm going to be able to stay in business, ride out the slow time, and find that bull market and get to the good times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had clients in really, really tight scenarios where they're like, oh, if I get a HELOC, how do I pay the HELOC, Leo? Well, guess what? With your home equity line of credit, you can move $50,000 over to your checking account, and now you can pay the home equity line of credit monthly payment with that $50,000, so it can pay for itself while you get afloat and you start to get profitable and do what you need to do for your business. But, I mean, I think, like you said, everybody should figure out how to get 0% interest, cash back, bonuses, points. I mean, for the Masters, I just buying my tickets and doing what I did, I got about $200 free money, just spending strategically. It's already paid off, so it's not like I'm paying any interest, but thanks, Amex, for the $200. Oh, not to mention, I also flew first class there and back just because I used the credit card enough. I didn't pay for it, right? It's just the perks of using the American Express card. So, I mean, you're missing out on opportunities. You're missing out on free money if you're not using a credit card. The key is, it comes back to this always, you've just got to be disciplined with it. Don't go buy the new TVs and the things you can't afford, but use it for things that you need to pay for anyway and get the points.
Absolutely. And then you've got to be disciplined. If it's past the 0% interest period, you're either getting a new 0% interest card, so you're not paying interest, or you're just paying it off every single month. And you're using, instead of using a debit card that doesn't make you money, you're using that cashback reward credit card that does earn you money. And this is all part of getting in the game of taking care of your money. That's why myfigures.com has that great money management tool for you to manage all of your, financial accounts, real estate investments in one place. And that way, if you're having your money date, which you should be every single week with you, your spouse, you know where your money's at, you know where your business is at, and you're winning the game because those things that are measured are those things that are improved. And that's why a money date on a weekly basis is so important.